Good evening, and welcome to the 201st Franklin Institute Awards Ceremony and Dinner. Alongside host committee co-chairs Barbara Klock and Salem Shukman, I'm truly honored to help lead this remarkable event. The success of tonight is made possible by the dedication, time, and generosity of so many individuals and institutions. We'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Vice Chair Dave Greed and the many members of the Awards Corporate Committee and the Awards Host Committee. And of course, we are deeply appreciative of all of you. Your presence and support enable us to recognize the outstanding contributions of our 2025 laureates.
The proceeds from this event will support TFI's important and wide-reaching mission to inspire within millions of students, educators, children, and adults a passion for science and technology. We'd like to offer special thanks to our Awards Week sponsors, whose generosity supports not only this evening, but also this week's educational programs held throughout the city. JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Lewis and Bacchius, and Marcia and Jeffrey Perlman.
And we are also grateful to our associate sponsors, the Andrea W. and Kenneth C. Frazier Foundation, Sarity Partners, the Danaher Lynch Family Foundation, Essential Utilities, Independence Blue Cross, KPMG, Michael D. Simone and Dr. Susan Hughes, Mill Creek Capital Advisors, the Morrell Family Foundation, PNC Bank, Rush Order Teas, and UST. And thank you to our patron and benefactor sponsors, whose names are displayed on the screen and in your program.
Last, but certainly not least, tonight would not be possible without the incredible support of Bank of America, our presenting sponsor for the awards ceremony and dinner. We truly appreciate their leadership and commitment for more than 2 decades. And now, we're so excited to celebrate the 2025 laureates with you. Please enjoy the program.
I was playing catch. A high school boy came by and said that he had learned in school how to determine exactly where the ball was in the air. I was amazed by that, and that's when I became a theorist.
I became interested in chemistry because I took a chemistry class. I had my first female science teacher. The opportunity to combine chemicals, see them react, make something new out of 2 other things was really compelling to me.
I met Enrico Fermi. In fact, I not only took his classes, but I used to walk to work with him. I really learned a lot about science because I saw what he was doing.
I remember going to my first 9th grade earth science class in high school, and the teacher, Bill Harrison, went around the room, asked each one of us what we wanted to be. My answer was, I want to be a cosmochemist. He looked at me and he said, "You're going to be the first woman on Mars." That was the most encouraging thing I could possibly have heard.
My dad and I built a train set where the controls were made with switches and relays and lights. My science teacher, Mr. Gozier, convinced me to use those to build what he called a computer. He gave me the following grade, A, triple plus, superior. I was invited back for the Bayshore High School Hall of Fame, so I thought I would emphasize the pivotal role of Mr. Gozier in shaping my future career. And when I finished speaking, there was Mr. Gozier. Now talk about completing circles. That was 50 years of circle there.
Please welcome the 2025 Franklin Institute laureates, escorted by their laureate sponsors. Jamie Dimon, escorted by Michael Useem. Naomi J. Hallis, escorted by Christopher Murray. Kurt Edward Peterson, escorted by Jan Vanderspiegel. John P. Perdue, escorted by Krzysztof Shalevich. John W. Hutchinson, escorted by C. Nataraj. Catherine N. Suding, escorted by Peter Petratus. Stephen M. Block, escorted by Frank Farone. William James Daly, escorted by C.J. Taylor. Muinat A. Ladiju Bell, escorted by Fazia Ahmed. And introducing Chair of the Franklin Institute Board of Trustees, Tom Lynch, and the Franklin Institute President and CEO, Larry Dubinsky. And our Master of Ceremonies, the Franklin Institute's Chief Astronomer, Derek Pitts.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to serve as your Master of Ceremonies as we celebrate the visionary work of this year's 9 extraordinary laureates. They join an exclusive community of scientists, engineers, inventors, and business leaders dating back 201 years. Past award recipients include Marie Curie, Nikola Tesla, Orville Wright, Albert Einstein, and modern greats like Jane Goodall, Bill Gates, Indra Nooyi, Catalin Carrico, Drew Weissman, Ken Frazier, and others who have joined us for this very special occasion. Throughout tonight's ceremony, you'll hear a theme that echoes across the laureate stories: inspiration. They speak of families, teachers, and mentors who nurtured a deep love of learning, who modeled curiosity and lit a spark that grew into a lifelong passion. They speak of environments that posed questions and life circumstances that pushed them to find answers. What we learn from their stories is that inspiration often begins with seeing and experiencing. And that's exactly what we do at the Franklin Institute. Through our exhibits, live science shows, and education programs, we create experiences that ignite curiosity, remove barriers, and make science approachable and joyful. Our exhibits invite hands-on exploration. They encourage trial and error, not tests and pressure. At the Franklin Institute, learning is play. Failure is part of the journey, and every child is a scientist. The Franklin Institute's new exhibitions features Faces of the Future interactives that introduce kids to real-life STEM professionals who look like them, doing amazing, meaningful work to which they too can aspire one day. And just a couple of weeks ago, as part of our grant-funded NASA's Next Advocates program, we took a group of kids to Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, where they had the most incredible and exclusive tour and a one-on-one interactive session with NASA scientists and engineers. I would guess that there aren't 100 kids in the United States who would ever have the access they had on this trip. Why are these interactives and field trips important, though? Because inspiration is often tied to admiration. And that's what this awards program is all about. Not only honoring greatness, but making it visible, personal, and accessible, especially to the students in the Franklin Institute's youth programs who earlier this week got to meet and learn from some of the most brilliant minds of our time. Together, we're building a future where every child can see themselves in science, where every question is an invitation, and where inspiration is just the beginning. And speaking of inspiration, I'm pleased to introduce our first laureate. Muinat Bell is giving doctors better vision. With groundbreaking upgrades to widely used medical imaging technology, she's pioneering revolutionary new ways to detect disease and help surgeons navigate the human body.
Ultrasound, the most affordable and accessible medical imaging technology, lets us peer inside the human body without a single incision. If you've ever had an ultrasound, here's a little secret. There are a few things on the screen your radiologist, no matter how talented, can't resolve. But Muinat Bell of Johns Hopkins University is standing ready to clear things up. In Brooklyn, where the chatter of diverse neighborhoods mixed with the clang of subway trains, Bell knew that real excitement could be found in the public library.
My mother cultivated a yearning desire for knowledge and a thirst for knowledge. One of my favorite places was the public library, where I got exposed to the world of science through lots of different textbooks.
That's where planets were at her fingertips, where Faraday's law lay waiting to be discovered, where the possibilities of physics, of electromagnetism, and the complex interactions of light and matter would seem to leap out from the pages.
My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and eventually I lost my mother to cancer.
Bell would pick up the pieces by dialing in on academics. Years later, she'd earn a PhD from Duke and turn her passion for physics onto medical imaging technology. Still plagued by the tragic loss of her mother, Bell wondered, could the breast cancer have been caught sooner with a quick, non-invasive test?
An ultrasound works by sending sound waves through the body, and after a brief delay, constructing an image from the echoes returning to the sensor. But the pictures aren't perfect. Sound waves scatter irregularly through human tissues, and the machines can't tell the difference between a wave that bounces directly back to the sensor and one that bounces around before returning. Today's ultrasound software sums up all the data, good and bad. The resulting images are muddied with what's called acoustic clutter. Clutter is responsible for almost all uncertainty in ultrasound imaging. If sound waves didn't scatter, solid tumors would appear white, fluid-filled cysts, black. Clutter turns both to an indistinguishable gray, challenging doctors to tell the difference.
Breaking down the physics of ultrasound technology, Bell began re-envisioning how computers process the echoes. She wasn't just upgrading ultrasound, she was overhauling it with a revolutionary protocol called SLSC.
I made the first SLSC image in 2009.
Using a model biomaterial, Bell simulated a test subject's tissues with undiagnosed masses beneath the skin.
I knew there should be a series of water-filled cysts in a line in a row. What we instead saw with traditional images were some grayish circles instead of black because of the clutter.
But when Bell turned on the machine, there was no doubt. The 4 little circles were black. With SLSC, Bell demonstrated a vast improvement in the efficiency and accuracy of ultrasound, a breakthrough that could save millions of lives.
It absolutely did feel really great. That day, it was the first time where I had crowds visiting to see my computer screen, and I honestly didn't realize how much of an amazing innovation it was until I saw the excitement of those around me.
Bell's work makes ultrasound and other imaging technologies clearer than ever before. It even improves imaging for people with darker skin tones and larger bodies, a frequent source of bias. And all of this is possible with a software update Bell says will work on existing ultrasound machines. But Bell isn't finished. Her current research promises to revolutionize robotic and traditional surgery, allowing surgeons to more accurately gauge the position of instruments and blood vessels in real time, improving surgical outcomes and saving lives.
I can imagine a world where we end all disease. We end disease by first detecting it so that we don't have to have cures, ideally. we could detect that our body is progressing toward a disease better, we could potentially reverse course.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Next Gen Award, Muinat Bell. Faster, smarter, more efficient. This is the world Bill Dally helped build. Modern computer processors, graphics cards, and artificial intelligence are the pivotal technologies Dally has made possible, making him one of the most influential innovators in modern times.
Bill Dally seems to be everywhere all at once. On the lakes and mountains, in the sky flying across country, or teaching his own student pilots. At night, he might be outside in the Nevada countryside, photographing the universe. These are his pics. The next day, back in his home electronics lab, making custom computer chips, or just inventing things. Like this open-sourced 3D printable ventilator he gave freely to hospitals during the COVID-19 pandemic. His kitchen has a drawer filled with Red Bull to keep him going. He also photographs gazelles and crocodiles and eagles. And when he's at work, he's the chief scientist at NVIDIA and the mind behind groundbreaking computer processing technologies that power AI. Growing up in Silver Spring, Maryland, Bill Dally's early life went exactly as you might suspect. He loved math and science so much, he quit high school early because he'd exhausted all the advanced classes.
I actually wound up getting my high school diploma after my sophomore year in college when I sent my transcript back to my principal and circled the courses that he should give me credit for, and he agreed.
By the mid-1980s, Dally had become a researcher working on a computer technology revolution, a new way to speed up CPUs called parallelism.
If you think of a classical CPU as one person working through a list of 10 math problems, parallelism might be 10 people, 10 CPUs, each tackling one of those 10 problems. Combining many chips into one big processor promised to really speed things up.
I was working hard on parallel computing, figuring the whole world was going to embrace it.
Dally couldn't have been more wrong. In the 1980s and 90s, the speed of standard CPUs was doubling with each new generation. A computer purchased in 1993 might be twice as fast as the 1991 model. The PC industry simply didn't want to invest in the infrastructure needed for parallelism, not when it could just keep on making faster chips. By 2005, the PC industry could no longer make faster chips. Chip makers had reached a material speed limit dictated by the laws of physics. After decades of obscurity, Dally's groundbreaking work emerged as the way forward, allowing the stalled computing industry to continue advancing. But by then, he was already on course to transforming computing a second time.
When a CPU processes data, it has to go somewhere. Usually it gets stored into memory. With parallelism, it was suddenly possible to create CPUs that process data faster than memory can store it. For some chip designers, this represented a limitation. Dally saw things differently.
While a professor at Stanford in the early 2000s, Dally wondered about situations where data didn't have to be stored, like the generation of pixels for a frame of video. Information processed in a chip, then sent directly to a display, where it flashes across the screen and is forgotten. Dally helped bring these ideas into reality with a new invention called stream processing.
And that really grew into GPU computing.
Stream processing marked the birth of the modern graphics card and the billion-dollar industries that depend on it. By 2009, Dally joined the world's largest GPU maker, NVIDIA, as chief scientist. By then, GPUs had massively accelerated architecture, engineering, gaming, simulations, 3D animation, and visual effects. And yet, just around the corner, lay one of the most disruptive technological advances in modern history.
With thousands of parallel processor cores, Stream processing GPUs are perfect neural network number crunchers, a foundational technology directly responsible for enabling the AI revolution.
Today, AI shapes nearly every industry, from entertainment to energy, healthcare to education. DALL-E envisions a world where innovations in hardware, together with more efficient AI, make problem-solving more sophisticated, where bold engineering lifts entire fields, reducing barriers and expanding human potential.
I really enjoy what I do. I found that I get enjoyment by working with really smart people on really hard problems. That's the best thing there is.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Computer and Cognitive Science, William Dalley. Stephen Block studies the machinery of life, one tiny molecule at a time, with the world's most precise tweezers. His groundbreaking experiments reveal the hidden mechanics of the biological motors that drive life itself.
There's a hidden world inside each of us. Ever since technology revealed the nanoscale constructs of biology, we humans have tried to take the machine apart. But more often than not, when we reach for the ultra-fragile nanoverse, it slips through our fingers. Not Steve Block's. In his Stanford lab, he can deftly manipulate the tiniest components of life down to a single molecule, suspended in calipers of light.
I was the son of a particle physicist, and it's fair to say that I've lived most of the places in the world where there's a particle accelerator.
Particle physics largely happened in Europe, far from his home state of North Carolina. Life abroad often left Block homesick.
When I was a student at Oxford, I wrote off to my sister. I said, send me some American music before I go crazy. She sent me 2 cassettes. One was Earl Scruggs' famous Foggy Mountain Banjo album. My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe the music I was hearing.
Block immediately bought a banjo.
It was either that or a set of bagpipes, but my fellow students told me if I came back with bagpipes, they would wrap them around my neck and throw me in the college lake.
Block mastered the banjo and took to the stage while earning his PhD in biophysics from Caltech. Touring America's sprawling bluegrass circuit, his thoughts increasingly became occupied with motors. Very different motors from the one in the Volkswagen bus, carrying him from stage to stage. These were the smallest engines in biology. Molecular machines, like those that cause muscles to contract, cause DNA to unzip, motors that make life possible. Block wanted to know, were their motions fluid and continuous, or incremental, coming in discrete steps like notes up the frets of a banjo? One stubborn fact of physics stood in his way.
To study a molecular motor, Block needed to pick one up and watch it turn. You might imagine something like chopsticks picking up a grain of rice. But at molecular scales, our everyday concept of tweezers begins to fall apart. You can't reliably grab hold of a single molecule using other molecules without destroying, chemically changing, or even losing the first molecule.
A paper from 1987 sparked a light bulb moment for Block. A device invented by physicist Arthur Ashkin that could trap molecules with light. Block got to work, building one of his own.
Believe it or not, at the microscale, a focused beam of light creates pressure that can suspend a single particle in the air. Block realized that such a particle, just a tiny bead, could be the perfect anchor for the even tinier molecules he wanted to study. By chemically attaching a biomolecule to the bead, he could then measure the minuscule forces of its movement.
The apparatus is called an optical trap, or optical tweezers, and with it, Block began to revolutionize biophysics. In a landmark experiment, Block precisely targeted the invisible corkscrew-like tail rotor by which bacteria propel themselves. Tail frozen in the optical vise, the whole bacterium spins like a propeller. Amusing as they are to watch, experiments like this had profound implications. Scientists finally had a way to see and test processes that could only be studied mathematically. Block's groundbreaking experiments unlocked the mysterious world inside human cells, demonstrating the hypnotic mechanics of DNA processes, how proteins move and fold, processes critical to disease and medicine. With a system of lasers, Block founded an entire scientific branch called single-molecule biophysics, laying the foundation for something much bigger, a comprehensive understanding of biological life.
Like many other scientists, I believe that there exists an objective universe. There exists a reality. You don't learn about it by simply taking accepted wisdom. You have to go in there and look at it. You have to learn truth by experiment, by testing. There's so many things we don't understand, and yet the best chance we ever have of understanding of that comes through science.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Life Science, Stephen Block. And now it's my honor to introduce the president and CEO of the Franklin Institute, Larry Dubinsky.
Thank you for being here to celebrate these tremendous laureates and support the Franklin Institute's mission to inspire and educate. And to our laureates, it has been a wonderful week honoring you and your incredible achievements. I want to take a moment to thank TFI's extraordinary leaders, the Board of Trustees, led by Chair Tom Lynch. Each of you demonstrate unmatched commitment to this institution. Thank you. This event would not be possible without the efforts of host committee chairs Barbara Klock and Salem Shookman, and awards corporate committee chair Jamie McKeon and vice chair Dave Greed. And thank you to presenting sponsor Bank of America, led by Jim Dever, and to your team, Senior Vice President Debbie O'Brien and Managing Director in Franklin Institute, Rob McMiniman. Thank you. Tonight, we gather to celebrate, but even as we do, we can't ignore the fact that science is under attack. Federal funding from agencies like the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health, IMLS, and NASA is essential to the work of universities, research centers, museums, and science centers across the country. And when that funding is cut, it doesn't just affect institutions. It has a devastating impact on our collective future. It's these public-private partnerships, especially in the areas of science and technology, that have long driven American exceptionalism and our dominance in science and technology. Scientific discovery is not a switch to be flipped when convenient. It requires time, patience, and consistent support. It is a generational investment in progress and in possibility. When we pull back, we do more than halt momentum. We risk ceding leadership to nations that are investing aggressively in education, research, and innovation. Here at the Franklin Institute, we will not be holding back. We know the impact this place has, not just in the classroom, but in the world. Research shows that even one visit to a science center can spark lasting curiosity and confidence in science. That spark matters. It's how futures are formed and how lives are changed. Welcome to the Franklin Institute, one of the top science centers in the country, the most visited museum in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and a major economic driver for the region. With a mission to inspire a passion for learning about science and technology, TFI is a place where science comes to life, where curiosity meets innovation, and where every visit is an unforgettable adventure. For all of our visitors, but especially for the 150,000 students and teachers visiting on field trips each year, a visit to the Franklin Institute is an electrifying experience. And now, with 3 brand new award-winning core exhibits, the Franklin Institute pushes the boundaries of discovery. Wondrous Space takes us on a cosmic adventure where you can touch a meteorite, command a lunar rover, and even design and launch a rocket. Body Odyssey, exploring the intricate workings of our bodies and minds in an interactive environment with cutting-edge technology. Hamilton Collections Gallery, where science meets history, providing an intimate look at rare artifacts, from Benjamin Franklin's original inventions to one of the world's first robots to the Wright brothers' airfoils. And the journey doesn't stop here. Our work to transform the Science Center experience is far from over, with even more new exhibits on the horizon. We'll explore energy, sustainability, computer science, artificial intelligence, and beyond in the years ahead. With these incredible new exhibits, TFI continues to be a hub for exploration, but the impact of this institution goes far beyond these galleries. After school and on weekends, TFI delivers its hallmark youth education programs for Philadelphia area students in middle and high school. PACS and STEM scholars provide hands-on science workshops, mentorship opportunities, and workforce development for students coming from 80 schools across the region. As a national leader in STEM education, the Franklin Institute reaches tens of thousands of students and educators each year in more than 20 states across the country. In Philadelphia alone, we are in 50 youth-serving community sites like the Free Library of Philadelphia, Esperanza, and Boys and Girls Clubs. All this impact is powered by philanthropic support, making STEM learning and careers accessible to all. I invite you to join us in shaping the future of discovery. The Franklin Institute is a catalyst for innovation, education, and inspiration. Every visit, every program, and every exhibit fuels curiosity and sparks a passion for science in people of all ages. But we can't do it alone. Your support ensures that we continue to push the boundaries of exploration, bring hands-on STEM education to communities near and far, and inspire the next generation of scientists, engineers, and dreamers.
Thank you, Larry. As a changing climate strains ecosystems around the world, Catherine Suding sees a story of resilience. Her extraordinary approach to restoring collapsed ecosystems infuses rigorous science with revolutionary pragmatism, putting sustainability within reach.
I'm an optimist. I'm collaborative. I love grasses. Grasslands are a really essential piece of our world. If you go through, let's say, an old-growth forest, you see the complexity above you. A grassland can be as complex, but it's just under the ground.
Catherine Suding grew up watching the vast grasslands in her home state of Colorado fray in the face of environmental change. The loss of local flora and fauna she'd witnessed was, in reality, a regional symptom of a global crisis still unfolding today. The ecosystems people rely on for survival, the ones that support agricultural pollinators, arable land, clean air, are collapsing. Recognizing this threat in 1999 as a young ecologist with a PhD from the University of Michigan, Suding stepped into a discipline called restoration ecology.
When ecosystems begin to unravel, restoration ecologists often step in to help restore the system. When Suding entered the field, the protocol was to facilitate recovery by returning nature to the conditions that existed before industrialization.
In this American suburb, wildfires rage like never before. During years of suburban expansion, native grasses were displaced by an invasive species that grows tall, dry, and brittle in the fall. The result? Fire. ecologists intervene, scattering native seeds, roping off the hillsides. They physically isolate nature from people. Still, the native grass refuses to regrow. In this ecosystem, and many others around the world, restoration ecology wasn't working.
We're actually changing the climate or changing the conditions in ways that they actually might not recover from. Like, why? Why is it like this?
Determined to find out, Suding launched some of the most important studies in the history of ecology. Cordoning off patches of land in Colorado's high prairie and sites throughout the American West, she raised tents to simulate droughts, extended winters with artificial snow. She sprayed herbicides, manipulated soil quality, and more.
Over 15 years, Suding explored countless variables and their interactions, reconstructing one of the most detailed webs of ecological interrelationships ever brought to light.
With this, Suding has unearthed profound insight into the invisible ways humans have thrown critical ecosystems out of balance, permanently. For instance, in the scenario of the wildfire-threatened suburb from before, Suding learned car exhaust was the culprit, and car exhaust isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So for this ecosystem, and countless others suppressed by human activity, the question becomes, what do we do about it?
So restoration has to shift. Maybe we don't restore it back to something. Maybe we have to restore it towards something.
For Suding, that something is resilience in the face of present and future realities. It means abandoning old systems, changing them into new ones, perhaps leaving invasive grasses, but introducing grazing buffalo, opening fields to ranchers, or even adding non-native insects proven by experimentation to bring balance. It's an incredibly bold philosophy, revolutionary even, not just for the groundbreaking science involved, but because it asks us to do something inherently difficult, to move on from the past, to let go of sights and sounds that have accompanied the human experience for centuries or longer. For some, these are painful prospects, but as ecosystems around the world stall out, Suding reminds us that we don't have a choice.
How do we restore and use these types of ideas in places that we don't exclude people, right? So people are part of the systems.
Scientists, the National Park Service, and land managers around the world have come to strongly support Suding, making hers one of the most impactful voices in ecology. And today, it continues to resonate with a hopeful message that human footprints don't always have to be the trampling sort, that we can change nature for the better in harmony with our own needs, and letting go of the past only opens the door for something new.
The recipient of the Bauer Award and Prize for Achievement in Science, Catherine Suding. Where catastrophic engineering failures occur, John Hutchinson is paying attention. His foundational work in solid mechanics has influenced how engineers design safer structures, including the lightweight rockets that put today's cutting-edge technology into orbit.
If you're not an engineer, you might think the most innovative advancements in tech are found in our devices, vehicles, and machines. The delicate circuitry and mechanisms under the hood, right? But what about the hood itself? The outer armor that protects the delicate stuff inside. Like the shell of a rocket, under the crushing stress of its massive thrusters pushing up against its own massive weight. For John Hutchinson, innovation doesn't just push boundaries, it makes them stronger.
I thought of myself, until I went to college, as being very American, even though my father was Irish and had a bit of an Irish accent.
Growing up in Bridgeton, New Jersey, Hutchinson came of age at an anxious time for the U.S.
Sputnik caused me to switch my major at the end of my sophomore year into an engineering mechanics department, which, as far as I could see, was much more closely related to space.
The US was leaving Earth, and leaving Earth is hard work. Rockets had to remain lightweight while managing to withstand the tremendous stresses of liftoff. Like most engineers, Hutchinson, then a researcher at Harvard, thought this was a challenge of form, of the shape of the rocket's shell.
Shell structures can be incredibly strong while remaining very thin. These eggshells, for example, can support the weight of 10 bricks.
Sadly, chickens don't lay rocket-shaped eggs, so engineers relied on mathematical models to find just the right shape for a rocket shell. Those models predicted stability, durability, and success. And yet, at the dawn of the Apollo era, US rockets were failing at just 20% of the predicted stress thresholds. Engineers ran exhaustive tests.
Pretend this soda can is a rocket cylinder. If we could predict where it's likely to buckle during liftoff, we could reinforce just that spot, minimizing the weight. The problem is, we can't predict where buckling occurs at all. Even with lots of repeat testing, the location of buckling is wildly inconsistent. The same holds true for rockets.
Perplexed engineers resorted to making early rockets thicker and much heavier, reducing carrying capacity. But Hutchinson wasn't so quick to give up. If thinner, lighter shells were buckling, there had to be a reason.
Yes, failure is very interesting. You have to understand it. You have to be able to characterize it.
Hutchinson reasoned that there was nothing wrong with the mathematical models used to design rocket shells, that the unpredictability lay with microscopic material imperfections introduced during manufacturing processes. The resulting flaws in the arrangement of molecular building blocks would cause sections to slip out of place, like misaligned bricks in a wall. This shift in perspective changed everything. Hutchinson began making himself an expert in the physics of manufacturing methods and how microscopic material grains are affected by shaping processes like deformation and solidification. Eventually, Hutchinson devised groundbreaking computer simulations that could pinpoint where consequential material imperfections were likely to occur. For the first time ever, engineers could predict where shell structures like rockets were likely to buckle and could use targeted reinforcement in their designs.
It was a small team at Boeing who really first began implementing. So that summer, I actually was involved in helping them calculate wing stresses for the B-52.
It wasn't long before NASA took notice. Hutchinson's simulations greatly increased the weight capacity of satellites and other spacecraft, transforming rocketry and history in the process. As he expanded his groundbreaking simulations, his insights directly contributed to safer, stronger airplane fuselages, accelerated the development of cutting-edge fuel tanks, and enabled revolutionary high-pressure storage containers. Thanks to Hutchinson, we are pushing boundaries beneath the ocean, beyond the atmosphere, and into the tiniest technologies, breaking open a future of enormous possibility.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Mechanical Engineering, John Hutchinson. I now welcome to the stage Jim Dever, President of Bank of America in Greater Philadelphia. Jim?
On behalf of Bank of America, it is my pleasure to be here with you. This year marks Bank of America's 23rd consecutive year partnering with the Franklin Institute for the awards ceremony and dinner, and we are incredibly proud of this long-standing partnership. As TFI embarks on their third century this year, we are excited to see how leadership will carry on the legacy of this institution and continue to set the standard for science centers around the globe. Like the Franklin Institute, Bank of America has a long-standing and long history of working across Philadelphia and the country to help people achieve their dreams and in turn positively shape their communities. We've seen the power of investing in this city to ensure all Philadelphians are set up for success, from promoting economic mobility through job initiatives and improving racial equity. And through this historic ceremony, Bank of America is thrilled to support the Franklin Institute's celebration of the world's leading scientists, engineers, innovators, and business professionals. On behalf of all the employees and clients at Bank of America, I thank you for supporting this program, and I offer heartfelt congratulations to the laureates. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. At the quantum level, the universe operates with considerable mathematical complexity. But John Purdue has empowered generations of scientists with a tool that makes accurate simulations of matter accessible and affordable, accelerating innovation like never before.
Decades ago, physicists imagined a tantalizing technological future powered by metamaterials, materials designed by humans to manipulate the flow of energy in incredible ways. The key to this future? Computer simulations. Calculating the orbits of a handful of electrons could reveal which metamaterials were possible. There were equations for this, famous ones which could simulate systems of dozens of electrons. But the search for new materials could potentially require simulating the motion of thousands, creating an impractical demand for specialized computer resources. For John Purdue of Tulane University, this was unacceptable. For a young John Purdue, life was a numbers game.
In high school, I started to get interested in mathematics because I had a very good geometry course. And in that course, I saw that you can combine intuition and visualization with logical arguments to reach a true statement. That impressed me a lot.
Math was a roadmap to answers, an avenue out of his sleepy hometown of Cumberland, Maryland, that went straight to the quantum heart of the universe. Equations had never failed him until 1973, when Purdue, with a PhD in physics from Cornell, began wondering about the possibilities of metamaterials.
Metamaterials get their unique properties from how their electrons move and interact with one another. There's no way around it. To design metamaterials, we need to simulate the interplay between sometimes hundreds of electrons. For Purdue, it was like trying to forecast the path of every bee in a swarm.
I'm a sort of obsessive thinker. When I have a problem to solve and it's an important problem to me, I just keep thinking about it until I solve it. And if I never solve it, I just keep thinking about it forever.
Stymied behind a mountain of math, Purdue wondered, was there a way around it? The answer was yes, kind of. A colleague introduced Purdue to density functional theory, or DFT. It was a way to approximate electron motion, to look at the shape of the swarm rather than the individual bees. There were major drawbacks. For all materials but metals, DFT simply wasn't accurate. Purdue got to work on a groundbreaking overhaul of DFT that would change the world.
So basically, the computations allow us to make predictions about what materials can exist and what properties they have. In chemistry, you can design molecules on the computer. In condensed matter physics, you can design solids on the computer with properties that you want.
Physicists once dreamed about the endless possibilities of designer materials. Because of Purdue, that dream is now reality. Improved DFT has been used to discover lithium battery materials, superconductors, and components for quantum computing. The ability to predict molecular crystal structures is opening the gates for new revolutions in medicine. And as modern DFT sheds light on hydrogen storage for propulsion, DFT may just bring humanity a step closer to the stars. As for Purdue, the same as always. Solutions, one after another, and sometimes the other way around.
I'm working now on a research problem that I started more than 40 years ago and made some progress on then, but the solution's not complete yet, so I'm not satisfied.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Physics, John Purdue. Tiny machines, massive impact. Kurt Peterson's work with micro-electromechanical systems, the tiniest machines in existence, thank you, helped launch a revolution that miniaturized technologies that power everything from smartphones to medical implants.
These are the world's smallest machines. Each would perch comfortably on the edge of a human hair. They work unseen, enabling our devices to sense, move, and interact with the world, guiding medical procedures, even bringing movies to the screen. It all began with Kurt Peterson and a gigantic innovation you couldn't see without a microscope. It was an era of grand ambition set to the roar of rockets and the scraping of slide rules. The space race fueled the American dream, and it was a big dream. Growing up in Northern California, Kurt Peterson was swept up in it.
I was designing like human, rockets that could take people to the moon and Mars and stuff. I was thinking bigger, yeah.
But things change. The space race would wind down. And in the 1970s, with a PhD in electrical engineering from MIT, Peterson suddenly started thinking small. He can remember the day it happened. He'd taken a position as an IBM researcher.
I'm a friendly guy, so I would wander the halls just to find out what people were doing. And I wandered down this one hallway, and there's this huge ink stain on the floor. And so I went in there, and what are you guys up to?
In the lab, Peterson found a team building some of the first inkjet nozzles. These were mechanical devices on tiny chips. He wondered, if you could carve something so precise as little channels and valves on such a small chip, could you build entire machines at this scale? Peterson got to work etching, making complex machines with moving parts too small to see with the naked eye.
So my first devices were light modulators. But then I discovered, I could make these into switches. So tiny, tiny switches. Again, you have to see them in a microscope. And people were amazed that you could build such mechanical structures that small.
Peterson wrote a seminal publication touting this novel microscopic machinery, rallying enthusiasts around the country. A new field of research was born, MEMS, micro-electromechanical systems. Peterson recognized the power of MEMS, how it combined the electricity conducting abilities of silicon with microscopic moving parts, allowing future devices to sense, move, and interact with the world. The tiny size would make them lightweight, energy efficient, and easily integrated into almost any engineering scenario.
He pushed the boundaries of the technology early on, innovating through a series of startups. Novasensor introduced tiny pressure sensors used in catheters during heart surgery.
A few years after I founded Novasensor, my father had open heart surgery. My pressure sensors were sensing his blood pressure during his operation. How great is that?
After the turn of the millennium, Peterson helped bring the anthrax scare to an end with an anthrax-detecting chip that to this day still scans all U.S. mail. Years later, Peterson's company Cepheid harnessed MEMS-based microfluidics to develop rapid DNA detection systems, and even providing the first rapid COVID PCR tests during the pandemic. Today, MEMS devices are everywhere. They're the microscopic accelerometers and gyroscopes inside our phones, the tiny mirrors inside digital projectors beaming movies onto screens. And the next big leap might be the embodiment, literally, of AI.
Well, there's a theory that consciousness comes from experiencing the world, feeling the world, seeing the world, smelling the world, hearing the world, interacting with the world. The only way a computer can interact with the world is through sensors. The next step in AI is having AI hooked up to a robot which is interacting with and sensing the world. And I think that's going to happen. And MEMS is going to allow that to happen.
Peterson's work helps us reimagine the role of technology itself, from tools largely reliant on human input to semi-autonomous assistive devices that sense the environment in ways we can't, bridging the physical world around us with ever-expanding digital domains.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Electrical Engineering, Kurt Peterson. And now, please welcome Board of Trustees Chair Tom Lynch.
I don't know about you, but my head's exploding. Well, we are coming down the home stretch of another amazing awards night, and if at times while you are listening to these incredible accomplishments, you feel a little inadequate, don't worry, this will pass. I experience this every year. Through this amazing awards program and everything it does, TFI sets out to inspire, inform, and create space for curiosity and dialogue while making science accessible for everyone, regardless of background or age. And TFI has been doing this for over 200 years, and the need for this has never been greater, as I think we all know. The Franklin Institute commitment to all those we serve is that we will remain a place where people can turn for credible and clear scientific information. This is a responsibility we don't take lightly. We hope you leave here tonight having a better understanding of all that is done at the Franklin Institute, from the impactful education programs and inspiring science center experiences to the work to make STEM education more important. And this latter point is so important. So thanks so much for joining and supporting this amazing institution. And another special thank you to all our laureates for having the passion and commitment to dedicate their life's work to making the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And now our final laureates. Naomi Hallis works at the scale of the invisible, manipulating light and matter with nanoshells. Her discoveries are opening bold new possibilities in cancer treatment, renewable energy, and beyond.
Imagine a future where cancer is treated with beams of light. They pass harmlessly through the body, leaving healthy tissue intact, selectively destroying only tumors. You can stop imagining, because this treatment resides fully in our present. It's being used right now to take on one of the most common forms of cancer, thanks to a landmark discovery in the lab of Naomi Hallis.
I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and I was very much my dad's kid and very much a tomboy, and my father really loved that. I was the kid who brought the tools, who helped him fix things, and he taught me also how to fly. So we flew airplanes, and I was the co-pilot. I really learned that with physics and engineering, you could do anything. But I grew up during the era when girls were discouraged from taking science classes. You can't imagine that, I hope. You can't imagine that anymore.
Hallis spent her first 2 years at college as a music major.
Other students, there were pre-med students, they were starting to talk about their homework, and I was helping them. And then one of them finally stopped and said, "Wait a minute, you're a music major, how come you're helping us with our homework?"
A PhD in physics from Bryn Mawr would lead Hallis to Rice University to research how light and matter interact. In the 90s, Hallis found herself holding a breakthrough in her hand, a small glass vial of shimmering liquid. The suspension contained trillions of nanoscale glass particles, chemically plated with a surface layer of gold atoms. They were called nanoshells, and they interacted with light in a revolutionary way.
A molecule's structure determines how it interacts with different wavelengths of light. For example, when molecules in our body tissue encounter the shorter wavelength of this green light, they absorb the light, blocking it. But the longer wavelength of red light passes through. Hallis realized that by manipulating the dimensions of the glass core and gold shell, she could design the nanoshells to absorb specific wavelengths of light. And even at that tiny scale, the gold atoms, like any other metal, would convert that absorbed energy to heat.
The implications would eventually become clear to Hallis. Nanoshells could potentially cure cancer.
Because tumors grow so quickly, they generate lots of defective porous blood vessels. In theory, a dose of super tiny nanoshells injected into the bloodstream would naturally find their way through, filtering into the tumor. Then, the patient could be treated with a long wavelength laser from outside the body. The light would pass harmlessly through healthy tissue, heat up the nanoshells collected in the tumor, and destroy the cancer from within.
Alice got to work testing the procedure on cancer-ridden mice.
We treated them and all the mice were surviving. The tumors were gone. Well, nobody budgeted for the mice not to die. The mice are supposed to die, right? You have to house them, you have to feed them, and they keep living.
Decades later, the first cancer-treating nanoshells designed for human trials were injected into men with prostate cancer. And when the lasers were powered down, all patients in the trial were cancer-free.
Personally, for me, my father, who I had obviously had this wonderful bond with for his whole life, later in life, he got prostate cancer and he had to undergo the conventional radiation treatments. And so he used to say to me, if you can help one person with this, if you can help one man to not go through what I went through, it would be worth it.
As nanoshell cancer treatment continues to be refined, researchers are exploring the role of nanoshells in drug delivery systems, advanced imaging, novel material designs, and even clean energy production. The future of science is built on ideas exactly like the nanoshells in Hallis's lab. Tiny, powerful, and ready to change the world.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Chemistry, Naomi Pallas. Jamie Dimon's leadership once helped pull the world economy back from the brink of collapse. And today, his vision for economic prosperity is making waves once more with a revolutionary approach that begins with community investment.
Today, Jamie Dimon is one of the most recognizable names on Wall Street. But his very first organization was formed in the 1960s near Queens Boulevard, where Dimon and a team of 9-year-olds banded together against the tyranny of neighborhood teenagers.
We had what we called the Lightning Squad gang, a bunch of kids, and I was one of the captains of the gang. Set ourselves up like a small military unit, sometimes to fight the big guys,
It was a fitting start for the son of a stockbroker who would follow in his father's footsteps into banking, rise to helm the biggest bank in the U.S., fight back against the biggest economic crisis in modern times, and forge a legacy as one of the most respected business leaders today. By 2005, Dimon had made it, climbing the ladder of finance to the top spot at J.P. Morgan Chase. For anyone else, it would have been a career capstone, but Dimon had little time to celebrate.
The first signs of it was actually back in '06, and the environment just got consistently worse.
In 2006, banks on Wall Street had been buying up subprime mortgages. As the price of these bundles of debt sharply rose, so did the value of banks that invested in them. But 20 years of leadership in finance had seasoned Dimon enough to know that subprime mortgages were risky. Seeing them accruing in JPMC's portfolio, he issued an urgent order to get rid of them. Less than 2 years later, Dimon would find himself center stage as the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression sent shockwaves around the globe.
We are watching this market deteriorate.
Every red dot represents a foreclosure.
We're down over 16%.
I got that phone call on March 13th in 2008. I was at dinner with my parents. Bear Stearns couldn't make it through the night.
Dimon's fears had come true. Subprime mortgages were losing value fast. Worse, they'd become embedded in the foundation of Bear Stearns, a pillar of global finance that propped up banks worldwide. If Bear Stearns failed, the others would follow. At stake, savings, dreams of retirement, millions of jobs.
I remember sitting literally on this floor, looking out at Manhattan. This is the Titanic. We've hit the iceberg. The world's going to have real problems.
Dimon and thousands of employees worked through the weekend to purchase Bear Stearns before Monday's opening bell, holding off global catastrophe. But the worst was yet to come. What would be known as the Great Recession had just begun.
9 months later, Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, then Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, banks around the world. It was a full-blown crisis.
Anchored at the center of it all was Jamie Dimon, not because his bank was failing, but because it was one of the few that wasn't. Dimon mobilized JP Morgan Chase as a stopgap, buying the remnants of giant Washington Mutual after it failed, a move that protected the deposits of millions of Americans. When other banks stopped lending money, Diamond stepped in.
Client by client, country by country, loan by loan. We're going to do this, we're going to help you through this.
As Congress passed the 2009 Economic Recovery Act, it was clear Diamond had helped avert a global depression.
If you go to an average small town and you walk down the street of small businesses, the bakery and the bookstore and the newspaper, they all want to lift up society and they all help. If you lift up society, it's better for everybody. That is the job of a bank. I think it's the job of a citizen. The American dream is still there for a lot of people, but I think you have to be acknowledged it's not there for everybody. Rural towns and inner cities are still suffering. They're dying 10 years younger. They have more crime. Their schools aren't as good.
Diamond has led by example, using the investing power of J.P. Morgan Chase to help build a strong economic foundation in cities like Detroit.
So the mayor said, anyone who can help fix my city, let's do it. I called him up out of the blue and said, we're in.
Altogether, the $200 million investment revitalized neighborhoods, built businesses, and created tens of thousands of jobs. Today, when Diamond talks about the future of American business, whether in the media or in his annual letter to shareholders, people from all political backgrounds tend to listen. And the message is not simply about banking. It's about foresight, community, and the belief that the smartest investment is in people.
Success to me, there are three things. One is my family, I have wonderful kids. Number two is helping my country, getting that right. Kind of number three is the company. This is my best contribution, is what I can do here for employees and clients and countries and cities and states. Myself and all the folks here, we work really hard to do that job well. So I just kind of want my epitaph, saying the world was a better place for him being here.
The recipient of the Bauer Award for Business Leadership, Jamie Dimon. Once again, please join me in congratulating the 2025 Franklin Institute laureates.